Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny and Friends SportsWrap. It's brought to you by Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area to make you feel better, body, mind, and spirit. Get to it. Make sure you feel good as the weather gets better. Go to ASFCA and see Dr. Woodle and all his fine associates as well. And a Sunday/Monday shout out to another one of the great sponsors here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast and our Monday Musings is the 23rd Street Brewery, where my wife and I spent a little time in Topeka, a little overnight stay, and a nice gathering with my wife Jane's friends. And on the way back, we hit the 23rd Street Brewery. She had herself a salmon salad, avocado salad with salmon, and I had an unbelievably delicious Reuben. I don't eat that kind of food very often, but the last 2 times I've gone to the 23rd Street Brewery, I've had the Reuben, and it was outstanding. So head there to have an enjoyable time. Great food, great brew. I'll be meeting a friend there on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, and we'll be sampling some of the beverages. So, good times for me to get to the 23rd Street Brewery a couple times within a week. This is kind of a good times, bad times edition of Monday Musings. The good times come from the Kansas City Royals, who continue to be the story around here in Kansas City, taking advantage of one of the rare windows where we don't hear that much from the Chiefs, although we'll finish with a final Chiefs note for you. But the Royals, another winning series, another winning week, and they win the series over the Angels over the weekend, taking 3 games out of 4. Winning a 4-game series is a lot harder. They won the first 2, dropped the third, and then yesterday, behind Seth Lugo, has been out of this world good. The Royals win at 4-1. The bats aren't great, but the pitching sure is, and right now the Royals would be in a wild card position. We'll talk a lot of Royals to start it off and have our baseball roundup as well. We've got excellence from Rory McIloy. We've got far less than that, and very disturbed about it. Sporting Kansas City and Peter Vermes get beaten at home, and that has become a recurring theme of not winning at home. And Peter Vermes, he's always interesting, but maybe when he's at his fiery best, when his team's maybe not at their fiery best, to say the least. So we'll get to hear from him, and you've never heard probably such blunt comments from a coach about a team, and it's really encompasses a lot of the things we want to hear about sports, being absolutely present and being accountable, and you'll hear from Sporting Kansas City's Peter Vermes. It's quite compelling, to say the least, as we talk SKC, though. So that was one of the down parts, but the Current keep on winning. Their women's soccer team in NWSL wins another game, and they are undefeated on the season. I spent a little time out at the stadium the other day in a nice event that was held by the Kansas City Chamber and the Current, and I got to see that up close and personal. Looking forward to a game here soon, and I will be seeing, perhaps, if I go soon enough, an undefeated team there. We've got NBA and NHL notes as well, and tremendous excellence from Rory McIloy, as mentioned, as he blows away the field in a designated signature event, whichever one they call it now, signature event, on the PGA Tour, heading into a major this week with the PGA Championship, and in fine form as he tries to break his 10-year winless streak in the majors. All that is on the plate. The highs, the lows, the penthouse, the outhouse, all rolled into one on our Monday Musings, Danny and Friends Sports Wrap. It's brought to you by ASFCA.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Always great to get together with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. It's been bitter cold. We've had a lot of snow this winter. We're not out of it yet, and it can cause problems.
It can cause big issues, not only for your car, but for your body too. Your joints, your discs, they're shrinking and compressing, just like your poor tires are doing that are low on air. You are feeling it right now when it's cold, aren't you?
Absolutely, and you can also get the kind of strains and things like that, and you don't want to overdo treatment, but you don't want to underdo it either.
We've been seeing a lot of patients that have had back injuries, shoulder injuries from moving this heavy snow. Unfortunately, slips and falls too. Come here first. We're conservative. We have the x-rays if we need to check it out, and we'll be able to get you fixed without drugs and surgery. Don't worry, we'll tell you if it is, but most importantly, we'll get you fixed.
That's the way to do it at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around Kansas City. Find the one near you. And for more information, go to asfca.com/Danny.
Hey Kansas City, Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing here. Well, it hailed like crazy, and the last thing you want to do is deal with another roofer. So don't. When they show up, tell them you know a guy. An Easton Roofing sign in your yard lets everybody know you want it done right, and it's the best storm chaser repellent you can get. Call us today for a free, no-obligation inspection, 913-257-5426 or eastonroofing.com. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. Welcome back, and let's talk Royals, and that's a lot of fun right now. The Royals 8 games over 500, and they have themselves virtually right at the top. Not quite. They're tied with the Minnesota Twins. They're just a heartbeat behind the Cleveland Guardians. We'll get into our baseball roundup in a minute, but they would be a wild card team right now, and in fact, they would be a wild card team by 3 games if the season were to end right now. And they're doing it mostly by leaning heavily on their starting 5. They've been great. Cole Reagans wasn't very good in his start, but that's going to happen every now and then. He got beat around pretty good on Saturday, but that was the only loss of the series, and out comes Seth Lugo, and he has been just out of this world. Only 1 substandard start out of his so far. He's won 6 games. That's right at the top in Major League Baseball. He's first in innings in both Major League Baseball and the American League. He's 3rd in ERA and 1st in the American League. So a lot of great things for him. He wasn't striking out many guys at the start of the season, but he is now, and he got a career-high 12 in the game against the Angels. Now, the Angels are bad. There's no dressing that up. They're a bad team with a bad lineup, and they don't have Mike Trout and all that, but still, it's a Major League Baseball team, and the Royals do what they're supposed to do, which is go out and take care of business. And they're doing it by sort of, when you're playing a golf scramble or something like that, and you say you're ham and egging it, like, instead of everybody, making a great shot on one hole, when you got 4 guys, you get one great shot on one hole and one great putt on another hole, and all of a sudden you got a great score. That's kind of the way the Royals are doing it. It's like they have a great driver on the team, to use this analogy, the starting pitching, and then if they get just enough from the rest, they're good to win a game. And yesterday, for instance, Bobby Witt Jr. had a flat day. He didn't have a very good series. It's not even gotten to be a slump. It's a 4-game stretch where he's 2 for 17, but he was 0 for 5. And so Salvador Perez, who's been great all year, pretty much steps in. And Nelson Velasquez, who hasn't been very good except for right at the start of the season, he gets a couple knocks in the game as well. And they get some guys getting base hits who needed them badly, like Hunter Renfroe, who's still hitting 153 even after a couple of hits. But he chips in on this day with a couple of key RBIs, and that gets the job done. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of guys whose batting statistics, except for Pasquantino and Witt and Salvador Perez, really aren't particularly good. But they've been timely at other times. Michael Garcia had a long slump, but he's generally been okay besides that. MJ Melendez has been pretty bad, but he threw out a runner that basically saved a game the other day. And, yesterday, another example, Hunter Renfroe with the 2 hits in the game and the 2 RBIs. And, he's basically sort of not contributed kind of at all and basically on the course of the year, but he's on a major league contract. He's on a 2-year contract. They're probably going to give him a lot of rope, although he certainly hasn't played as much in May as he did in April. But chipping in yesterday with a good contribution was one Hunter Renfroe. So the Royals now sitting there at 25-17. They head to Seattle. Seattle's been playing some excellent ball since an indifferent start. And the West, as we'll get into here in a minute, has not been particularly good in the American League. But more late-night baseball for you and late afternoon baseball as Monday and Tuesday you can settle in after maybe everything is done for the day and watch some Royals baseball out in Seattle. as it'll be Brady Singer headed to the mound for the first game of the series. And you look at the pitching matchups, even when the other team's throwing a good pitcher, like tonight in Seattle, George Kirby's going for the Seattle team, and you don't feel like Singer's overmatched. That matchup would lean toward obviously George Kirby, but the Royals smells like what the Royals have done a lot this year. Win 3-2 or win 4-2 like they did on Sunday, and the Royals just flat getting it done, and now comfortably over 500 with some wiggle room as far as they could have a little slight setback and still be in very good position. As I mentioned, if they ended today, they have a 3-game lead over the Red Sox as far as the last wild card is concerned. Remember, 3 division winners, 3 wild card teams, and of course, it's nice also to get into one of those home wild card positions, which is tough to do with the other teams winning the division. But the higher seeded team gets to play all 3 games in that. But the Royals are close enough to the top in the division to think about that, not even think wild card. And, of course, we're only a quarter of the way into the season, so thinking about any of it is kind of crazy. But why not enjoy it? 42 games in, Royals 25-17. That's among the best records in all of baseball, and not the best, certainly. A few handful of teams are better, like the Orioles playing .667 ball, and they have a half-game lead over the Yankees, who've been chugging along. Both of those teams have won 7 of their last 10. Aaron Judge hasn't been great for the Yankees, but hit his 10th home run. The Orioles score a bunch of runs and hit a bunch of home runs, but the Yankees, quietly, have scored more runs than the Orioles, and that's tough to do. And actually, the Yankees have a better run differential than the Orioles as well. The Red Sox have kind of hovered around the 500 mark, dipping a little below, jumping a little above, and that's what they did over the weekend by winning a couple of games. Tampa Bay's hanging in there. They've got so many injuries in the pitching staff. They've played a whole lot of home games so far, so they're about to hit the road for a stretch, and we'll see if they can hang in there. That's a tough division. They've had way, way too many pitching injuries so far to be competitive. The disappointing team is the Blue Jays, having all kinds of trouble scoring runs, just 147 runs in their 40 games so far this year. Compare that, that's like 60 runs less than the Yankees have scored. That's tough to overcome. They haven't been buried yet, but they're pretty close at 18-22, so close enough to 500 to, if you're kicking around 500 right at this time of the year, you still certainly can dream about the wild card. But for instance, you can be 8-9 games behind the Royals, which is the second wild card team in the American League, and that just sounds good to say. As mentioned, the Royals are just a half game back of the Guardians along with the Twins. Twins slightly ahead of them on winning percentage. And the Tigers got themselves back to the 500 mark over the weekend, although they lost on Sunday. Took a series from the White Sox, who've been a little bit better of late. Yeah, they've won 6 out of 10, and that has pushed them above the magical 250 mark. Why do I say that's a magical mark? It's really not that magical, but 250 is the winning percentage that the standard bearers for poor play, the New York Mets, in 1962 were at 40-120. So you can always look at a bad team and see if their winning percentage is higher than 250, then they're not on a pace to set the record that the New York Mets set in 1962. The opponent over the next 3 days, the Mariners, are in first place in the West, but it only takes 3 games over 500 to do that. Mariners have split their last 5 after a hot streak. Defending champion Rangers can't quite get it going, but their run differential indicates they should be playing better than slightly above 500 ball. Oakland slumped a bit, but still, they're playing better than most expected. They're only 4 games under 500. The Astros just can't get anything going. Justin Verlander was great in an appearance yesterday, and they took a series, but they've still got many, many bits of heavy lifting to do. 15-25. The only thing good about that as an Astros fan is that I don't have to split up as much time watching the Astros play when they're 15-25. You would think at some point they'll get it going. They've got basically an MVP caliber player right now in Kyle Tucker, who leads the major leagues in home runs at 13, but they got a long way to go to get back. When you're down there with the Angels, which is what the Astros are, then you are not playing good ball. Over in the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves look like they're going to have quite the battle. Now, remember, it's a cool thing. It's an important thing now, the way that structure is in Major League Baseball. There's a real prize for being the top seed in each league, because that's the only teams now that get a bye. And so the Phillies and the Braves are right in that mix along with the Dodgers. So that's something that those teams will be having a lot of time to play for, indeed. And winning the division title actually is better, too, because you have much better chance of getting the higher seed and getting all 3 games at home in the wild card if you aren't the top seed. But